I want to tell you that I once attended a church service. Now, like you, I know what to expect when we go to a church service. Everyone in here, when you know that it's a Wednesday or it is a Sunday, or if you go to Gateway Church, or if you go to this church or the Potter's House or any of the big churches or the smaller churches, it doesn't matter. You have an idea of what is going to happen there, right? Some may have the lights brighter than in other places. Some may have smoke as the Holy Spirit is moving in this place, and the lights. Some may not have any of that, right? Some may have instruments. Some may have just the hymns and a cappella. But you have a general idea of what this experience will be like. And so you normally think, okay, so we're going to get there and we're going to sing. Some people are going to be louder and out of key. Some others will make it difficult for the musicians. You know, in big churches where everything is loud and people are farther away from the stage, you know, and someone is playing one of these things and they're off tempo, it's not a big deal. But in a small setting where the keyboard player is not very good with tempo, and then you hear somebody else going in the opposite side, I'm like, Lord, help me here. Because I'm about to follow her instead of her, and everything's going to be a mess. You see, you know what to expect, the music, the style, all of those things, the preaching, all of that. And so I once attended a church service. Knowing exactly what a church service, I had a moment where everything turned in a different direction. All of a sudden, the platform was open. Not for a testimony like we just did right now, which I'm accustomed to. We don't do it often, but every once in a while we do that. But in this time, the platform was open for anybody to come so that they could confess their sins. And so when the platform was open and I started seeing people going up there and doing that, I was just like, I mean, there were things that I was experiencing that I was like, okay, so what's going on here? Lord, help us. Where is this going to end? Can we come back from something like that? Pastor, you're exaggerating. I don't know if I'm exaggerating. Jacob, can you get me a mic, please? We're going to have some confessions going on here. Anybody would like to do that? Anybody would like to come up here and then just expose, remove the veil that covers what's really behind those beautiful eyes that you have? I was just kidding, Jacob. I was just kidding. We're not gonna have that in here. I was struggling. So here's the thing. Why those sensations that I had and probably you had right now when I said we're going to do just that? I mean, some people may not have a problem, but others will. And I have concerns about those things. I know that we're to confess our sins. And when he says to one another, I don't believe that it means everything about you. I believe it means something that pertains to this person. Listen, I want to come clean with you. I haven't been completely honest with you. That's what that's talking about, right? We're to confess our sins to someone else, right? Come clean. But why is it that the idea of the truth terrifies us so much? Because that's what that is. Speaking the truth. And yet, for me, I experience somewhat fear, maybe a little bit of anxiety. I didn't know how it was going to turn out. Can I really come clean? Can I really say the truth? It's an interesting concept. We all talk about it. We all want it. We all say that it's important for us, that we need it. We all praise it. Who in here praises truth? We all put it in a high place. We all know how powerful truth can be. And oftentimes, we're terrified of it. I mean, We don't want to say the truth because of what it can cost. And you should be concerned with those things. We also don't want to hear the truth because of what it could cost. I feel like sometimes we know that something is going on. We perceive that something may be going on, but we don't want to. We're terrified of hearing the truth. You know, if a husband is struggling with bad thoughts, he's going to be terrified to come clean and speak and expose the truth. It's terrifying. Can you imagine that husband coming to church and trusting that to another man, let's say? You know why he's terrified? Because while he's struggling with those thoughts, the person that he shares those thoughts with may be struggling with gossiping. And as he's listening, I can't wait. Can't wait until this conversation is over. I got to go home. I have to share it. You see, we all know how essential truth is, yet we manage to convince ourselves to avoid it. We know how important it is, and yet we managed to find a reason why to avoid the truth, to not receive it, to not dwell in it. I remember the first time I went back home, back to Mexico after I moved here. It was a summer after school was over. I went back, and my house, my parents' house, my grandparents' house, was located only a block away from a middle school. And I had just graduated from that school the previous year. So I'm going back for vacation, and I'm going to be there a summer. And I remember we had a little convenience store. And I'm there, you know, contemplating, watching TV. I forgot what I was doing. But anyways, the ring bells, the school is over. And you could hear the ring, right? Everybody's coming out, and all of a sudden, all of this, please cover your ears. Cover your ears. All of these girls come into the store. Are you covering your ears? And as I'm there, all of these girls start flirting with me. Now, I had just graduated the year before from middle school. And as they are flirting with me, I was like, oh, no, I can't do that. No. No, I was enjoying every bit of it. I liked it. I was like, bring it on, girls. What do you guys want to talk about? What's going on? How's school now? Do you know this teacher? Do you know that teacher? Yeah, I just went there I graduated last year. So all of that is going on. And my dad, so wise as he's always been, waits until all of that is over, all of that is gone. And when they leave, he's looking at me, and now he's going to give me a lesson. He's like, you're so naive. You don't know what's going on. They're playing you. You see, these few girls here are all over you talking to you about how handsome you look and this and that, while the others are sneaking things into their bags. They're stealing from you. I know it because they've done it to me. I didn't like that part at the end. But here's the thing, right? I heard what he said, and I know that he said the truth, yet I was avoiding it because I liked what I was experiencing. So we know how important the truth is, and yet we're willing to avoid it, ignore it, because what we're experiencing feels good. It's interesting how truth works. You know? We all know how liberating truth can be. We all know how life-changing truth can be. We know that when someone addresses and said, hey, don't engage in this relationship. Look at all these red flags. He doesn't like to work, but he's so handsome. And he's tall. So, as powerful as it can be, we choose to avoid, to ignore, to not engage. So, truth is an interesting concept. It really is. It could be liberating, it could be powerful, important, and yet we manage to interact with it in ways that we shouldn't. You know, truth, sometimes we like it. When it serves our purpose, we like it. Truth sometimes makes us uncomfortable. I was having a conversation with a friend of mine a while back, and he said something about ministry that pertained to me. And it was not something that I liked. It was something that made me uncomfortable. But it was true. It doesn't matter how truthful he was, it made me uncomfortable. And part of me wanted to reject everything that he said and said, no, that's not the case. Just like with my grandpa. No, they're not playing me. They really like me. They're really doing this because they liked me, not because they want to steal from me. You see, part of us engages in what the truth is doing for us and what it could do, and part of us is on the other side. But here's one of the biggest things about truth. As much as we elevate truth, as much as we praise truth, oftentimes we can't handle it. We can't handle truth. So we say, lie to me. But today, I want you to have a moment with truth. Today, I want you to have a moment with truth. If you're seeking Jesus, after all, you're here, and you're not here, as much as I may think, you're not here to hear me. You didn't say amen? That's good. Thank you. You're not here because of me. You're not here because of the worship team. You're here because you have a necessity. You need Jesus. There is something about him that you need. So if you're going after him, you need to learn how to interact with him when you have an encounter with him. You need to realize that he is the way. What does that mean to you, that he is the way? Because when you find Jesus, you find the way. That means that whatever way you thought you had is wrong, because you found the way. There is only one way. He is the way, the truth, and the life. So what are you going to do when you find him? I want you to be able to have a moment with the truth. A moment with who? Jesus, the truth. The truth. He is the truth. He is the way. He is the life. Because of time, as much as I would be comfortable going all the way to 12, I can't. So because of time, we're not going to read it. I'm going to just read a couple of verses. But in chapter 4 of John, from verse 4 all the way up through verse 41, we find a story that will help us interact with the truth today. We'll see elements in here. We'll see how is this interaction with the truth. If Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life, then what is it that we can see from people that interacted with him? So how is it that you interact with the truth? Okay? So Jesus is on his way to Galilee, and he stops by Samaria, Sychar, by a well. And he's there sitting, resting because of the journey. And a woman comes, and the Bible does describe the time of the day where this took place, around midday, right? And so a woman comes around that time, and she's going to get water. To this, he immediately says, give me some to drink. And they engage in this conversation. Are you familiar with the story? Do we need to read it? You can go home and read the whole story. But they engage in a conversation about this water that he's now wanting to drink and what he has to offer. Now, out of this conversation, when the conversation is over, she leaves that place, goes into town, and speaks to the people there about her experience. And all of a sudden, a great multitude is coming from there to listen from Jesus. Sounds like a powerful story. You know that this one woman became a tremendous evangelist. She went and talked about the power, the love, how amazing her experience was. And all of a sudden, all of these people come and now they're listening to Jesus. Okay? It is she becomes an amazing instrument of God. She was a Samaritan. She was a woman. Okay? And there are some things that we will get to that, that are significant in this story. She had to interact with Jesus as the way, the truth, and the life. This entire message will be based around one verse out of this passage. Verse 16. Do you have it? Jesus said to her, "Go, call your husband, and come here." From this verse, I want to speak to you. Jesus, the way, the truth, and the life. But today, we're facilitating you a moment with the truth. A moment with the truth. Go and call your husband. Go and get your husband. Now, at one point in their conversation, Jesus goes there. If you know the story, you know what I mean by Jesus goes there. Because if you ask me, it doesn't really have anything to do with what's going on at the moment. The only explanation, natural explanation you can have on this is that back in the day, there is a lot of discussion about women's role in ministry. And the only natural suggestion, I'm saying natural suggestion that you can have in this is that Jesus rather have the husband listen to what he had to say than her. That's the only natural explanation. So Jesus went there. He knew exactly what he was doing, okay? We know that he knew her condition. He knew that she didn't have a husband, that she was living with somebody and he was not her husband. He knew that, okay? He knew that. We also know that this woman was not very proud of her condition, because it is suggested that the reason why she goes to get water at that time is because she wants to avoid people. Because people are always noisy. They want to know what's going on. They ask you questions. I haven't seen you in a while at church. Is everything okay? Are you guys doing well? Because I haven't seen you at church. Now, I'm not saying that that's wrong, but it feels like that when you're not in the right place. You see, when someone it's uncomfortable, they don't want people around. They want to be alone. They don't want to be bothered. They don't want questions. Now, how are you really doing? They don't want that. They want to be left alone. So, this is a setup. This is what we have in this scene. We have Jesus asking a question, and we can say, yes, he went there, to which he knows the answer. It is evident that the woman is uncomfortable with her condition, and he goes and asks this question. When I started this series, I used the story of Jairus. And in the story of Jairus, we have a particular moment where I believe he's being broken all the way down. Everything that he believes has to be destroyed before God can do a miracle in his life. And that moment is when, as he's going to his house so that Jesus can pray for his daughter, this woman comes and touches Jesus' clothes, and she gets healed. And Jesus stops and has a conversation going on and all this. All of a sudden, a servant comes and says, hey, don't bother him anymore. Your daughter is dead. That moment right there is humbling. It'll break everything in you. To hear that what you believe was going to take place is gone really will bring you to a humble place. Everything around it. And I believe that this is exactly what takes place in this story. Go and call your husband. Go and call your husband. We know she's ashamed by her condition. Yet he says to her, go and call your husband. It is almost as if he wants to, on purpose, make her uncomfortable. Jesus wouldn't do that, right? He wouldn't make you uncomfortable on purpose. He wouldn't cause a pastor to say something that will offend you. No way. He will not cause a brother to say something that will hurt you. There's no way Jesus will do that, right? He never did anything like that. He never called anybody a dog, right? He never did anything like that. So now we have this moment. What leads to this moment? How is it that we get here? In verse 7, Jesus says to her, give me something to drink. And that triggers a conversation for them. They engage in a conversation that seems off because on one side it seems like Jesus is talking about something that she doesn't understand. Because he's saying, I have a water that once you drink this, you will never thirst again. I have a water that it's just amazing and powerful, right? And she's like, okay, but I don't see any container in your hands. How are you going to get this water to give me? You see, it's like the conversation is off. Like she's stuck in the natural realm, and he's talking about a supernatural element. But they're not seeing the same thing. One seems to be talking in level while the other in a different level. One about natural water and the other one about living water. She's interacting with him in the natural, and he's interacting with her in the supernatural. I really wonder how often this takes place in our lives, where we engage in a conversation with God, and it feels like we're communicating, but we're in a different level. We're stuck in the natural. Lord, I don't understand. How is it that you're going to make this happen if you don't have anything to make this happen? He was talking in a spiritual level. But eventually, verse 15, she seems to get it somewhat. The woman said to him, Sir, give me this water that I may not thirst, nor come here to draw. I say that it seems like she seems to get it because she's interested in this living water that he's offering. But yet, she's still somewhat stuck in the natural. It's like she's transitioning from the natural to the supernatural, from one level to another. She seems to get it, but there's still a hint of humanity. She's transitioning to the supernatural. See, a natural conversation ascending to a supernatural level. That's what this is. A natural conversation ascending to a supernatural level. A casual interaction reaching spiritual levels. So at this point, this is what has happened. She's battling her mind whether she will make a choice. Is he the way? Is he going to be the way? And in order for us to get there, we have to engage in the supernatural and go beyond the natural concepts. So as she makes that step to go into the supernatural, we find our moment. If you are going to go from a casual, a natural relationship with Jesus into a spiritual and meaningful relationship with the Most High God, you have to deal with the truth. It is okay if you want to have a casual relationship with Jesus and you keep things to yourself. You see, a girlfriend usually doesn't know how long it takes you to shower. You see, a girlfriend doesn't usually know whether you burp a lot or not. It's usually a wife that finds that out. I was going to go into darker places, but let's just keep it like that. So, but you get the idea. There is a huge difference between dating and a commitment. if you want to have a casual relationship with Jesus, listen, that's fine. You will be where you are. But the moment that you start engaging in the supernatural, the moment that you start engaging in the spiritual realm with Jesus, you have to inevitably deal with the truth. Because the very next thing that happens to her, in the minute that she says, give me of that water so that I don't have to come here anymore. See, Jesus is not concerned with the humanity anymore. He sees the spiritual that is awake in her. And immediately as he sees that the spiritual is engaging, now he addresses the very next important thing, which is the truth. The moment that you want to engage spiritually, that means genuinely, real. The moment that you're stepping into the supernatural, the spiritual realm, you have to deal with the truth. It's inevitable. You have to deal with the truth. That's verse 16. Go and get your husband. Go and get your husband. So you mean business? You really want a relationship with me? You don't want to just date? Which means you do as you want, you do as you please, you come as you please. And when we're done, we're done. Everybody goes to their house. That's it. If that's dating and that's what you're doing with Jesus, then that's all you will get. But if you want a deeper relationship with him, then that means that you step into the supernatural, into the spiritual realm, and you proceed in that direction. There is one thing that we have to get straight from the get-go, and it is truth. Go get your husband. The Bible doesn't specify what the feelings were. The Bible doesn't say whether she was offended, whether she was sarcastic, whether she was sad or mad. It just simply says, I don't have one. I don't have a husband. That's what she says. I'm trying to think if it's me engaging in a increasing or progressing relationship that is becoming deep now. And this person that I'm engaging with seems to have a hint of divinity. And I'm confronted with, where is your husband? Or go get your husband. And I don't have one, and I live with one, but it's not my husband. My demeanor will probably change immediately. As I say, I don't have one. I guess you can see through. I don't have one. I can only imagine that a response to such confronting request would be like that. Just your demeanor changes. If we're going to move into a powerful relationship with Jesus, a meaningful relationship, a real relationship, a spiritual relationship, an authentic relationship, you have to address your condition. It's like Jesus will be today. So you've been coming to church for a while. And I noticed that when we worship, you feel something inside that is moving you and creating curiosity. You want to know about me. I noticed that you want to go deeper. Tell me about your Facebook account. Tell me about those messages. Tell me about that hidden app that your wife doesn't know about or your husband doesn't know about. Tell me about that relationship. That's exactly what he's doing. Go get your husband. He's saying, let's talk about the condition that brings shame to your life. It brought shame to her life. That's why she would avoid people. You see, someone that doesn't have anything that is bringing shame to their life, they're not hiding from people. They're not. Now, I know that sometimes sin can be in someone's life and they can act like nothing is wrong. I know that. I know that. Pastor, how do you know that? I've been there too. But if you want a meaningful relationship with Jesus, he will say things like, let me see your browsing history. Let's talk about what you watch. Let's talk about the thoughts that you entertain. Let's talk about how you treat your spouse, how you put extra chili, extra hot sauce, how you let the tortillas burn. Does someone say that's mine? No. Let's talk about how rude you are. You want a relationship with me? Let's address something that others may not see, but I do. And if we're going to do this together, the truth will have to prevail. When interacting with Jesus is inevitable, we will be forced to address things that bring shame into our lives. And I mentioned the story of Jairus because this is Jesus dealing with you, let's say, in the altar. As you are saying, Lord, I want to serve you, ideas, thoughts come to your mind that remind you those things that are not pleasing to him. He's saying, let's talk about this. Let's address this issue. Let's talk about what you watch. Let's talk about what you hear, what you listen to. So while he's doing those things in the altar, it's a great opportunity for you to humble yourself and address it. Otherwise, he will address it with circumstances around us. I've told you how I would feel if I was Jairus. I would feel like God was breaking me. Ruining everything around me, what I believe. To hear that what I thought was going to work out is dead. And for Jesus not to say, don't listen to them, she's not dead, she's alive. He didn't say that. He left it as it was. All he said was, don't be afraid, just believe. That's it. So, if you are going to have a genuine relationship with Jesus, we have to address that. Everyone has to. Remember Zacchaeus? Jesus didn't ask him, so tell me about the numbers that you do when you do taxes. He didn't say that. Zacchaeus alone said, you know what? I'm going to start giving money away, and I'm going to start fixing this thing. Remember the woman that was caught in adultery? She didn't come to Jesus and say, you know what, Jesus, I want to open up to you. I want to tell you what my real life is like. No, she didn't. I don't know if she had the opportunity. I don't know if someone spoke to her and say, hey, Jesus wants to change your life. Please stop doing that. Live this way. Don't live that way. We don't know if she had that opportunity. All we know is that now she had to address the very issue that brought shame into her life. Everyone, listen to me, no one in this place, if we are going to have a genuine relationship with Christ, everyone will have to address the deep secrets that we all hold. Past, like the 5 husbands that she had, and present, like the one she's with right now. You have to address with him what brings shame to you. What's your little dirty secret? Key moment. Lord, this is not something I am proud of. I hate it. I don't know how I'm still struggling with this. I hate it. She didn't hide it. When you realize Jesus is not interested in what people see on the outside, that he's not impressed by the many beautiful words or by the gift. He's not impressed by those things. He says and he asks, go get your husband. I don't care the kind of influence that you have. Before you go and get everyone to come and listen to who I am, I want to address this situation about your husband. It's not about the gift or the influence and your ability to talk or your ability to do things. It is none of those things that he's interested primarily on. He's interested on addressing the thing that brings shame into our lives. Go call your husband. It's an opportunity so you can tell him, I don't have a husband. Let me know that your condition brings shame to you, so I can help you. I know you don't have a husband. I know the kind of battles that you have in your mind. I know when you give in. I know when you run away from sin. I know when you're successful. I feel like God is telling us sometimes, or God is telling us, if He wonders if we know that He knows. Because sometimes we act like if He doesn't know. Who in here likes to talk about truths that are uncomfortable? Most people don't like to talk about things that are uncomfortable. See, with Jesus, it's a slight different. Because with other people, sometimes they don't know. It's only you. But with Him, He does. He knows. We're so afraid that if the truth comes out, the truth gets exposed. If He knows our condition, if He didn't, our reality, what's really inside of us, like we're so afraid that if He knows what's really inside of us, that He won't think of us as worthy to be used. He will change His mind about us. That He won't want to interact with us. We all have things like that. I have things in my past I'm not proud of. I don't want to talk about. I don't want to even remember that they took place. There are things in my life that I'm not proud of. Things that God is removing or dealing with me. But here's the thing. If we act like they're not there, then there is no healing, transformation, restoration. If we ignore those things there, or if we just see them on the side and not address them, we'll never be able to be the recipient that He needs us to be. In order for us to be the recipient that He needs us to be, we need to be able to say, God, I am struggling with this, and it's real. It's affecting me. I hate it, but it's real. I need your help. And I need your help translates to now I'm doing something about it. I'm turning away from that. This doesn't mean that you're embracing who you are and now you're happily doing what your tendencies pull you over to do. No, it doesn't mean that. It means that you recognize that there is something wrong with you, that there is a condition that is not okay with God. When we get there, then we open the door for God to do as He pleases. So you can become an instrument. Verse 17. We're not going to pass the mic so you can speak all of the dark things that may be inside of you. Bad thoughts. No one in here can say, I've never had a bad thought. No one in here can say that. So this is not about that. This is not about you finding somebody so you can just throw up with everything that you've thought of or done. No, this is not about that. This is about you and God. You recognizing He knows that it's there, but He wants you to acknowledge that he's there so you can cry out and ask him for help. The woman answered and said, I have no husband. Jesus said to her, you have well said. I have no husband. Let's keep going. For you have had 5 husbands, and the one whom you now have is not your husband. That you spoke truly. You speak truth. Keep going. The woman said to him, Sir, I perceive that you are a prophet. One more verse. Our fathers worship on this mountain, and the Jews said that in Jerusalem is the place where we ought to worship. One more, please. Jesus said to her, Woman, believe me, the hour is coming when you will neither on this mountain nor in Jerusalem worship the Father. I want to stop right here, just because the farther we keep going, we will realize one thing, that they moved on from the conversation. They moved on. Jesus doesn't continue to address the situation. Now, it doesn't mean that he's okay with that. We know that that's not the case. With the woman that was caught in adultery, he said, go and sin no more, as he addressed the situation. But what I want you to see here is that the things that you're holding from God, you think are keeping you from God using you. But the reality is that you holding them is what's keeping you, not those things. The moment that you release those things and put it at the feet of Jesus, that moment you are released to be used by God. She didn't dwell on that. And let me tell you, all the odds were against this woman. She had many things going against her to become an instrument of the Most High God. And I'm closing with this thought. First, she was a Samaritan. Samaritans were seen as impure. They wanted nothing to do. The Jews wanted nothing to do with Samaritans. So that's a bad thing already for her. And then on top of that, she was a woman. And Jesus, as a rabbi, could not. There was no way that it was lawful for a rabbi to engage in a conversation with a woman alone, much less with a Samaritan woman. He was breaking all of kinds of traditions that they had established. But not only she was Samaritan and a woman, she was a sinful woman with shame. Listen, it's inevitable. You and I will have to interact with the truth. But don't be afraid of what he may find there, because he already knows what's there. All you have to do is render it before him. Present it before him. Lord, I need help. I'm desperate. Would you help me? And as you engage in that, you will see how by you choosing him, the way, interacting in a deeper level with him, and embracing the uncomfortable and breaking truth, how it breaks our paradigms, our traditions, our character, how it changes us. And as we embrace it, we can now engage or enjoy the life.